So I don't know if you guys saw in the chat or not. So I started using ChatGPT to help organize my brain because it's all over the place all the time. Apparently his brain is not any more organized than mine. So I was like, hey, I named him Jet. I was like, hey, Jet, what's our content look like this morning? Because I already planned this whole week out with him. And he was like, oh, we're going to do like the sleep video and break it up to whatever. So I post his first sleep video. I post his second sleep video for like the middle of the afternoon. And then I was like, wait a second, the third pillar is fitness. And so I go back to him and I'm like, bro, weren't we supposed to do fitness today? And he's like, oh, yeah. It's like, dang it, I already released the sleep videos. Like, we're just going to switch it up. So we were supposed to talk about fitness today. As we talked about yesterday, we were going to talk about sleep instead. My bad, guys. Not technically in order, but obviously still a really important pillar. So for our sleep discussion, so as we talked about yesterday with the 6 pillars of health that we go through with building university, we did our mindset, we did our nutrition, today was supposed to be fitness, and then sleep is the next one. So once we've kind of got our diet down and we know that we're eating the way that we're supposed to be eating, we wanted to kind of turn to sleep and see how our sleep is. And start to notice those things about like maybe our sleeping patterns or if we're preparing ourselves well for sleep and stuff like that. So that's kind of what we'll talk through a little bit more today. And that's kind of in the phase 2 of building university. So I've got a couple clients who have already graduated to phase 2, and that's what they're starting to work on. So it's been fun to kind of organize a little bit more of their routines and see it actually reflect on the quality of their sleep. So that's what we're going to touch on a little bit here is like how can we each do that too to make sure that our sleep is as high quality as possible. So the first thing we're going to talk about, we'll do kind of like a round robin like we've done before, is when was the last time that you either did not sleep enough or maybe pulled an all-nighter? What was the situation like and how did you feel the next day? So I'll just go top left. Ray, if I can call on you first.
Yes, so actually on Monday night, the whole day I was just busy and I didn't get back home until like 10 at night. And I'm usually in bed by 9:30 and fall asleep super quick. But yeah, this time around I didn't fall asleep probably till like 11:30, maybe even 12. And yeah, the next day I had to work at 6 in the morning and I was just the whole day I could just feel myself like just drowsy and heavy and just so tired.
Mm-hmm. Heavy is a really good word. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Caitlin.
I mean, I would have to say the one time I experienced sleep deprivation would be when I was sick.
Okay.
And it just, you would think I would sleep harder, but that first night I was just restless as all can be, probably because I was primarily hungry.
Hmm.
You know, soup and crackers, not really the most fulfilling thing in the world, so.
Okay, for sure. And then how did you feel after being restless all night and not really getting sleep?
I was exhausted. I think I lasted the day and then I slept for 2 days straight.
Yeah, because your body kind of needed it, right?
Yeah, well, I had a fever that following morning, so my body was like, no, dude, you're freaking going to sleep.
Shut down
Yeah.
mode. Okay, for sure. All right, Nathan.
Oh, well, probably last night. I think I got 5 or maybe 6, which uh, actually last few nights. Um, but I was thinking about all-nighters. I think I've had 2 in my life.
Ooh.
That's pretty impressive. I've
Well,
definitely had more than that.
I one I had a speech the next day. I was getting ready for, and the other one I was really nervous for a trip. So that one wasn't necessarily. No, I was more nervous. My alarm clock wasn't gonna go off.
I
I
just
get
sent a
that
meme to
same
one of
way.
my sisters the other day. It's like when I have something super important in the morning, or when I like have a trip the next day. I almost always stay up till like 2 or 3 a.m. like packing, and then I'm supposed to be up at like 5. And it's like this weird thing that if you, I don't know if you guys experience this too, where you get like less than 4 hours of sleep, then you're kind of like just like running on fumes and you're like good to go, whatever. And then you get to
Yeah.
like, I don't know, 12 o'clock and just
Yeah,
crash, right?
Michelle, I'm pretty sure that runs in the family.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe.
the
So,
same way. I'm like, oh, I got a flight. I gotta be packed. Okay, I'm packed, and then I'm awake, and I'm like, I need to sleep, but I can't sleep. And then
so
I'm like, oh, it's time to go to the airport.
let's talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons. So obviously we know sleep is good and that we need it, right? But we're going to talk about pros and cons of sleeping and not sleeping. So what are some cons of not sleeping? What could be a result of it? How could it affect the rest of your day? Any examples?
Irritability.
Ooh, that's a good word.
Just probably what Caitlin said. Yeah, just no energy to do anything.
Yeah, and missing that energy a lot of times is also missing that desire, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I run into that a lot. The worse my sleep is, the longer I procrastinate my workout for that day.
Oh, wow.
Nathan?
I, I would say a focus at work or like being able to do tasks
Yeah,
efficiently.
totally. I was just talking to one of my clients too. This was an interesting one. We were looking at some of her stats. And the nights that she got less sleep, she also ate fewer calories the next day. So there was a direct correlation between her appetite and when she wasn't getting good sleep. So that one's an interesting one as well, right? So let's talk about some of the benefits of sleep. What are some things that it can do for you?
Well,
More
I think,
energy.
yeah, energy, yeah.
That it? More energy, yeah.
For me, I guess the opposite of um, irritable. It makes me happier the next
Okay,
day, I think.
yeah. And like you said, the lack of focus, it helps you focus a little bit more, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Also, athletic performance, it absolutely helps you because obviously you have more energy and stuff like that. But with both that focus and energy, we can make sure that we're going to reduce our risk of injury, right? That we're paying attention, that we are like springy when we're doing whatever we're doing, and that we're concentrated on the task at hand, right? Those are all huge things for sure. Cool. Anyone else? Any other benefits of sleep?
I mean, there's a lot, but I would say, at least for me, like when I get enough sleep or get good sleep, I wake up with kind of a lot of energy and like I'm ready for the day, and it kind of just lasts a while, like
Cool.
for the first couple hours of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Very cool. And something else that's interesting is it also helps with, so kind of like on a cellular level, it helps with like muscle repair, right? So if you were like lifting really consistently, but not sleeping consistently, then you may not be able to reap all the benefits of that cell, like the muscle cells themselves being repaired, right? And so that if you're not getting them repaired, then you don't really get the benefit of the lifting. And then it almost negates all of the progress that you've been trying to work toward, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So technically, you could kind of screw yourself if you're taking care of one of them and not taking care of the other one, right? Yeah. And it does help with hormone regulation as well. So, who has heard of the term circadian rhythm? Does that sound familiar at all? Yeah? Okay. Nathan, what is it?
Well, I couldn't really explain the science behind it, but it's basically your um, body and sleep schedule aligning with the um, night and day, usually, I think, and just kind of sleeping at the same time every night is kind of my understanding of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Caitlin, anything to add?
No.
Okay. So, Ray, you have a unique experience. Well, Benson is also in Alaska, but you had a unique experience of living in Alaska for a little bit. What was it like? I remember you and I had a conversation about this when it was light all day.
Man, it was hard to go to sleep. And well, at night, it was hard to go to sleep because the sun is out. You know, you could look outside and you see everything. You see like all the houses and stuff. And um, got to the point where we had to put foil on the windows at night to make it seem like it was nighttime, so
Okay.
no light would come in.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. So, what in our lives, in our households, I'm trying to feed you an answer, could simulate sunlight that we might want to do something about?
Any kind of light.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of overhead light, lamp, stuff like that, right? What
Mhm.
else?
Computers,
Aha, yeah. Lots of
TVs.
electronics. Absolutely. What is the last thing that each of you does before bed? I'm not gonna lie, I also watch TV when we eat dinner, so that is one of the last things that we do. Um, Anyone else?
No.
Yeah.
That was just a guess. I love that all of you are guilty. So, and there's some of those things where it's like, okay, it needs to be practical, right? All these adaptations that we're going to try and make, or these changes that we're going to try to make, they need to be practical. But we can also change the way that we approach it, right? So let's say that TV is the last like cool down, chill for the day, whatever thing that you do. How can you optimize that experience to make sure that it disturbs your sleep less? Any ideas?
Maybe
No TVs in the bedroom, no phone in the bedroom.
Okay. And why do you say that?
Well, it's a lot more tempting if they're there. And then if they're not, it just gives you the chance. Plus, there's the static that electronic devices give off that can also keep you awake.
Okay. Right?
I was gonna say even timers, setting timers to turn off all electronics or TVs, and then after you turn everything off, take about like 30 minutes to wind down with obviously with nothing in your room, like, or just not using any kind of electronic to wind down.
Yeah. Wind down is awesome. Definitely. Nathan, any other ideas?
Um, maybe I don't know how much it helps, but I have like a light well, a couple lights that aren't as bright. Like, and I turn them on. I try to only have those on like right before I go to bed, so I don't turn on the ones that the really bright ones. They're
Yeah.
like they're really like this. They're like dimmer than the one in this room. I don't know if I explained that well, but
Yeah, no, I got you. Like almost like a little night light, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And that's a really great idea too. So maybe you're watching TV. Okay, yes, blue light, but maybe you watch it in like a dark room, right? Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I was thinking about if we like build our home one day would be how cool would it be to have like, in the aisles on an airplane, how they have the lights on the floor? And just
Oh
have
Oh,
that be in the hallways. Wouldn't that be cool? And
yeah,
have it like
that,
set to a day timer and stuff. So then you can like still see where you're going, but you can turn off all the lights like a couple hours before you go to bed, right? So I thought that'd be cool. And we have little baby night lights. We're not 100% good at turning down all the lights, but I really try to. And then we have little night lights. And so then, yeah, like when I'm brushing my teeth and stuff, I try to have just the night light, oh my gosh, on to minimize that. So that's a really good one. Okay, so we discussed blue light, right? We know that that one's a big piece, and because it simulates essentially the sun, right? So our body's like, oh, it's still daytime, and like now that we all live in, houses, that's a pretty normal thing for our body to be a little confused about. You did mention, right, a wind down. So what would a wind down routine maybe look like for you?
uh, meditation is a
Ooh.
big one. Maybe even um, I know there's some I don't know what exactly it's called, but like bed yoga that you can do like in bed or on your
Okay.
bed.
Okay.
Um, or yeah, just any breathing technique to relax your body, relax your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Caitlin, what would be something that you'd like to put in a nighttime routine?
I would love to find a way to shut off my brain. I
Ah,
have a
okay.
bad habit of lying in bed, and even without distractions, I'll still be like, oh, this happens next in my story, and this happens next in my story. And then I realize it's been 3 hours. The music stopped playing, and I'm still awake.
Okay. So if we're trying to, let's say we're sticking with the minimize blue light, what's a way that you can get your brain to start quieting down without using that blue light?
Mm, probably like what Ray was saying, meditation, just breathing, kind of clear the mind, flush it out.
Yeah. And I think we've done progressive muscular relaxation a couple times together. That's one of my favorite prescriptions right before bed. It's basically just going like head to toe, squeeze one body part as hard as you can, then relax it as hard as you can, right? So
That
those
was
ones are
good.
really good. I really like that. And then something that I do too, I don't know if this would work for you. I have a billion thoughts in my head when I go to bed too. I keep a notebook next to my bed. And so that if I'm like, oh my gosh, then I like write it down real quick so that I can get it out of my brain. And that seems to work pretty well for me. So I don't know if you've tried anything like that before.
I unfortunately have, and then I just end up staying up the whole entire night
Okay, okay.
writing.
See, it works for some people and not for others. So I have a client that does reading before bedtime, but she's a huge bookie. And so, bookie, I don't think that's the right word, book reader. And so, even though for a lot of people, reading a couple pages of a book will kind of make them sleepy and they'll start to go, she'll just get into it, right? And then she'll stay up
Yeah.
longer. So it does depend on the person, for sure. Yeah, you got to try out what works for you. Okay, awesome. What about you, Nathan? What would you like to include in like a wind down routine?
Yeah, well, so I think actually since the last one of these we were talking about sleep, and
Mm-hmm.
I kind of more so started, or at least got a little better at trying to like get done with everything I need to do at it, and get ready for bed at certain times. Like don't do anything after 8 or um, I haven't quite gotten it as early as I wanted to, but yeah, it seems to help. And for me at TV, I think it'd probably be better to read for me, but I think something like that helps me because before that, I'm typically going around thinking about all the things I could do, but then it helps me relax, right? I mean, for the last half hour or so before,
Okay.
an hour before I go to sleep.
Cool. Awesome. And then one last concept I want to throw in here before we wrap up is going to be I will ask a question, then I'll tell you what the answer is. What do you do in bed? What activities do you do in bed? Sleep, obviously, right? What else?
Scroll,
Scroll. Okay.
play games on the iPad.
Okay.
Watch shows or movies.
Okay.
Um, oh, I meant to say that the muscle relaxation thing. Uh, I don't do that, but every day. But I have it really like it really works. I think at least for me,
Awesome.
like doing it in bed, like on my back and just like squeezing, like starting at the head and going down. But
Yeah, because once you
um,
get to the end, you're like,
yeah, it does help if at least for me.
cool. Absolutely. Okay, great. So those are all really great examples. So somebody told me this one time. I thought it was hilarious. I'm just going to say it. Beds and bedrooms are for sleep and sex. So if you're not doing one of those two things, think about compartmentalizing, right? Like your bedroom is like your safe haven. That's where you should be relaxed. A lot of people actually even work, right? They scroll, they watch TV. And if you're doing more of those activities in the bedroom, then it's going to feel like it's an all-purpose room instead of a relaxation room. Do you know what I mean? My
Mhm.
husband really wants a TV in the bedroom, but I have not given in yet because that's like, again, the safe haven, right? And so that's one thing that I would definitely advise trying to do a little bit more is try to create that compartmentalization so that I know Ray with your van it's a little harder, but that bed is like a safe space. Like that's where your body knows, okay, now it's time to go to bed because we're working our way into that routine, into that area. And so it starts to kind of basically, you guys know the term melatonin, right?
Hmm.
Starts to pump out that melatonin a little bit sooner, and then you start to be able to start relaxing sooner, go to sleep faster, sleep better when you are sleeping, and then we get to take advantage of those like muscle repairs and hormone regulation and all that good stuff, right? Cool. Fun fact, one thing I did not talk about yet, but eating windows. If you can close your eating window to 8 to 12 hours and you're not eating too close to bed, it actually helps the body composition too. So you'll have less fat. So hey, that's always bonus. All right, any questions or comments?
Oh, I did want to say one thing.
Sure.
I used the word dichotomous today.
Hey, nice.
Not even dichotomous thinking, literally just the word dichotomous in my therapy session. Because
Okay.
we were talking about black and white and, how some people think black and white and some people think in terms of rainbow, you
Was
know.
your therapist impressed?
She said, that's a good word. That's a big word. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Awesome. Anyone else have anything to add? And then we'll do one quick round of takeaways.
Well, just adding what you were saying about
Yeah.
I sometimes because now that I'm staying in an RV, I notice when I lay on the bed during the day, I get sleepy,
Yeah, see, it's
and
working already.
and I want to take a nap, so I have to like force myself to
Okay.
get out of the bed, and like go sit at this table or something or do something else.
Yeah. And that's a really good point too. So let's say that you're trying to do something productive like studying, right? Then
Mhm.
like you probably shouldn't study in bed if you know you're going to
Yeah.
get sleepy in bed. Like it works both directions. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Anything else? And then we'll do some takeaways. Okay, cool. All right, let's do takeaways. We'll do the same order that we did before. Ray, was something that you took away, that you learned, or that you could immediately implement?
Um, Staying away from like electronics while in bed because I feel like that really plays a big role in being able to not being able to fall asleep.
Okay. Caitlin?
Oh, that the bedroom is for sleeping and sex.
Yep. It's easy to remember.
That's really easy to remember. It's very catchy and it's
Yep.
very straightforward,
I think that's what I liked the most about it. I was like, oh, okay.
right?
All
You're
right,
just
Nathan.
like, this is something I'm not gonna forget.
Yeah, right? Honestly. Nathan?
Um, I think I will. Sometimes I'll have the habit of the first thing I'll do in the morning is grab my phone just to like kind of look at something so I don't fall back to sleep. But also sometimes that turns into more time than I want, especially on the weekend. So I might try to leave my. Sometimes I leave my phone in the another room, and I might try to do that more often.
Cool. Yeah, that's a really great idea. I started implementing that at night too, so that I'm not trying to scroll as much. Like I'll put them in the bedroom early or keep them in a different room so that I'm not as tempted to just sit there at the end of the night. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a really good idea. Really quick, did any of you watch the two sleep videos that I released today?
Not yet.
Nope. Okay. If you didn't, go ahead and give it a shot. So basically, the first one is benefits of sleep. Obviously, you addressed some of those today, but it's just really snippety and short, so you can get some of those. And then the second one is sleep tips, which we also covered a little bit, but I think it's a really good way of just summarizing everything that we talked about today. They're both on my profile, and I think I shared the first one in the group. So go ahead and take a look at those ones, because I think that'll give you, again, just a summary of everything that we talked about, and even include a couple tips that we didn't talk about.
Cool.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I appreciate y'all for coming. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. We will actually talk about fitness tomorrow. So sorry. And yeah, I'll see y'all soon.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys later.
Yeah.